Hi there, welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for joining me today. My name is Janelle. Today I'm going to be doing the quarter year crisis book tag. I believe, yeah, the quarter year crisis book tag. It's the first time I've done it. I saw Lauren in the Books do it. I'll take her video down below. I actually need to check and see. It was originally created by Roisin at Roisin's Reading on YouTube. I've got all the questions pulled up here in front of me. I think it's a really cool idea. I hadn't seen it before. I'd seen the mid-year book freakout tag, but I hadn't seen this. So I think this would be something cool to do each quarter to reflect on it, and see if my answers change or how they change, how they alter. So let's begin. So the first question is, how many books have you read so far this year? This year I've read 15 books so far as of last night, and I'm recording this on April 1st. That is quite good for me. My best years, I've read 35, 36 books. So that is quite good for me. And that was actually me completing my Goodreads reading goal for the year. Because I had no idea how my reading year would go. So, that's great. Have you already found a book you think might be a 2023 favorite? If not, what was your favorite book you read that wasn't quite 5 stars? I have a couple that are favorites already. I think about them frequently. I won't mention one yet because it's going to be mentioned in a future question. But we'll get there. So the first one is Meet Me at the Lake by Carly Fortune. This was shortlisted for Canada Reads 2024. I loved it. It is a second chance romance. I'm pretty sure it's the first second chance romance I've ever read, which I never really had much interest in, but I really liked it. I loved her pacing. I loved the timing of how it all panned out. I cannot stand it when I'm reading a book and there's the whole miscommunication, or when there's the climax with the bad and it drags on and on and on before it's resolved and before they figure out there was a misunderstanding or whatever. But the timing of this, I felt like it was just spaced out so well, and it was just such a feel-good but also very emotional book. I'm really excited to read. She's got a book either just coming out right away, I believe, and she had another one published previously to this one, so I want to get my hands on both. I really, really enjoyed it. And I'm pretty sure I gave that one 4 stars. I still would keep it in the 4.5. It's not quite 5-star. But that can always change. I am open to changing my ratings, as I kind of dwell and ponder on the book. And then the next one I'm going to mention is Moon of the Crested Snow by Waubgeshig Rice. I just read this in March, so it's been very recently mentioned. I'll keep it brief, but it was beautiful. It was tense. The writing was gorgeous, but it's extremely emotional, and it's such a reflection on community and, individual characters, how they either focus on themselves or focus on the community and hope. And yeah, I consistently think about this book, so this could easily be one of my top for the year. I could totally see that being the case. Next is, let me see, any 1-star books / least favorite books of the year. I have 2 for that, because one of them I'm going to mention is a DNF, so it doesn't have a star rating because it's a DNF. I don't know. I think some people do rate DNFs 1 star or something like that. I personally don't, because I can't comment on the entirety of the book. But it was The Third Policeman by Flann O'Brien. It just wasn't for me. And if it's for you, great. It just was not for me. I had no idea what was going on at any given moment. And the positive reviews were you have to be okay with not knowing what's going on. I'm not okay with that. So I ended up DNFing it. It is described as the Irish Alice in Wonderland, but it also felt fairly stuffy and pretentious a bit. So just not for me. Not for me. But I guess my biggest disappointment would be A Ghost in the Throat by Doreen Negrifa. I was so excited for this book when I got it last year. I have such a happy memory of getting this book. And I've mentioned it a couple times simply because it was disappointing to me. Doesn't mean it would be for you. I could easily see this being someone's favorite, alters the way they view reading. Like, I really genuinely do think that could happen. So I keep bringing it up because I'm like, just because it wasn't for me doesn't mean it's not for you. But it's semi-auto fiction. It's about a woman who narrowly avoids a tragedy in her life. A poet from, I believe, a few centuries ago. She stumbles on this poet's work and becomes very obsessed with tracing back this poet's life. And there's a very interesting conversation on women being erased from history that I did quite like, but it was different than I anticipated, and what I anticipated I think I would have preferred. But I also kind of think this maybe just wasn't the right point in my life to read this book. Like, yeah, I could see maybe a few years down the line rereading it and a lot of things hitting home a lot more. I couldn't relate to a lot of the things the character was going through, and you don't have to. Like, obviously, majority of books you probably don't relate to what's happening with characters, but I think it would have given me more if I had. So that one, I didn't dislike it, but it was a 3-star, and in my head it was going to be like this strong 5-star. So, definitely disappointing in that way. Most read genres so far. I was looking at Storygraph the other day. I believe that is literary fiction, which is just general fiction. I used to say historical fiction was my favorite genre, but it turns out I don't know that it is anymore, which is quite interesting. I do love historical books, but there's so many subgenres within. I don't know, it's something I'm really kind of looking at this year. And a book that surprised me, that's where we mentioned the other one that I loved, and that is Bad Cree by Jessica Johns. This was my first read of the year. It is a horror book, which is where it surprised me. I was extremely excited for it, but I was also, I entered with a bit of trepidation because I don't really like horror, or so I thought. I definitely don't like horror movies, but I assume it's now seems books are quite different in that regard. It was amazing. It kept me on my toes. I was on the edge of my seat. I couldn't put it down. At the same time as being horror, it was extremely heartwarming. It was really focused on healing family relationships and trauma and stuff along that line. It's an Indigenous story about a family who has experienced intense grief, and one family member coming back, dealing with the horror aspect, and how they rebuild relationships, repair relationships, while trying not to let these dreams that are becoming her reality actually become reality. And it's very tense. And it's one I genuinely had no idea what was going to happen, how it was going to play out. But I loved it. I think about it all the time. So that one is very possibly going to be one of my favorites of the year. And then next is a book that's come out in 2024. Sorry, this must be last year's. A book, well, yeah, this is a post from last year. So yeah, a book that's come out in 2024 already, a book that's come out this year already, that you want to read but haven't yet. I don't own it, which is why I haven't read it, but I'll put a picture up of it if I can, and it is by Scott Alexander Howard. Scott Alexander Howard. It's called The Other Valley. I believe it's his debut novel. He's a Canadian author. And I was reading what this book is about, and I was like, oh, this is making me think of Station 11. This is making me think of Station 11, and I was so excited by that. And as well, it was giving me vibes of Before the Coffee Gets Cold by Toshikazu Kawaguchi. And I read that book a few years ago and loved it. So, and then I actually saw, when I read another, blurb of the book, it was for fans of Emily St. John Mandel. And then below it was like, people who like this also like Before the Coffee Gets Cold. And I was like, oh my goodness, it's everything that I love. Going off of memory, it is about a community where they can go to the other valley, which either goes 20 years in the future or 20 years in the past, but they can only go for, I think, grieving reasons, and there's a council who chooses if they're allowed to go, and it's the exact same valley, it's the exact same everything, it's just you're jumping this moment of time, which is where the Before the Coffee Gets Cold feeling comes in. And our main character wants to be part of the council, or she's likely to become part of the council, but she witnesses something she shouldn't, and it goes that way. Oh, I want to read that book so bad. I cannot begin to tell you how badly I want to read that book. One goal you're succeeding at. I don't have many goals, but I am proud of how I am doing. I mainly would have two reading goals this year, I would say. One being to be more aware of my ratings and really what those mean to me, to be a bit more of a stickler about them. And the other one to be more aware of and narrow down my currently reading list. I spent hours cataloging all of my books onto Notion, and it was very satisfying though. I was so detailed about it. But I have like a separate page within there that has my currently reading books, and I was very honest with myself. If it was a book I'd even picked up and just read a few pages and put back down, I still put that on that list, because that's a bad habit I've gotten into, and I currently have 11 books on that shelf, which bothers me a lot. There's some I don't mind being there. I have Les Miserables there. That's fine. That's going to take me years. No problem. I have a few poetry books there. Again, that's fine because I dip in and out of them. But majority of them, I'm like, hey, do you need to just finish this? Do you need to DNF this forever? Like, what's going on? And that was where I was at with A Ghost in the Throat. I started that one, put it down. That's where I was with The Third Policeman. I started that one, put it down. Yeah, so I did quite well actually in March of just finishing and DNFing another, and I intend to continue that. And one goal you need to focus on, that same goal. There's a book I've been reading for I think 7 years now, and I pick it up basically every year and read a little bit, but I'm still like less than 200 pages through, I think, and that's The Historian by Elizabeth Kostova. If you've read that, let me know. I'm pretty sure now I'm pretty comfortable with DNFing it. I've been doing a lot of like internal thinking about it, but it's also hard because when I DNF a book, I tend to donate it. Like if I'm not going to read it, or if it's not a representation of me and what I like to read, I don't own it anymore. Like I gave my husband The Third Policeman. I don't actually think he's going to like it, but he's going to give it a try anyway before we donate it, because he loves Alice in Wonderland. I have a feeling he won't like it, but I don't know. But The Historian's been with me for so long. Like, I've had it since before I moved to the UK. It was one of the first books I brought over with me to the UK, so it's quite weird thinking about, putting it in a little free library or something. So I'm struggling a bit in that regard because it's been with me physically through a lot, but the book itself, I don't think I'm ever going to read. So that's probably the next thing to focus on. So, yeah. Anyway, that was my quarterly year crisis book tag for Q1 of 2024. Let me know if you've done this. I would love to know your answers. I just tag anybody who wants to do it. And if you've read any of the books or want to and have any questions, let me know. But I hope you have a great April, great rest of the second quarter, year, whatever. And I will see you in my next video. Thanks for watching. Take care. Bye.